Section 21, Incidental Contact. Article 1, all contact shall not constitute a foul. When 10 players move rapidly in a limited area, some contact is certain to occur. Incidental contact shall be contact with an opponent that is permitted and does not constitute a foul. Article 2, contact that is incidental to an effort by an opponent to reach a loose ball, or contact that results when opponents are in equally favorable positions to perform normal defensive or offensive movements, should be permitted even though the contact may be severe. Article 3. Contact that does not hinder the opponent from participating in normal defensive or offensive movements shall be considered incidental. Article 4. A player who is screened within his visual field shall be expected to avoid contact with the screener by stopping or avoiding the screener. Article 5. A player who is screened outside his visual field may make an inadvertent contact with the screener. Such contact shall be incidental, provided that the screener is not displaced when he has the ball. Article 6. When a player approaches an opponent from behind, or a position from which the player has no reasonable chance to play the ball without making contact with the opponent, the player in the unfavorable position is responsible for the contact.
All right, the principle of verticality. Article 1, verticality applies to a legal position and also to both the offensive and defensive players. The basic components of the principle of verticality are: A, legal guarding position must be established initially and movement thereafter must be legal. B, as long as no other player is occupying a space on the playing court, any player may legally occupy that space. C, the space that a player may legally occupy is defined by an imaginary cylinder surrounding the player, which extends from the floor to as far above the player as he can jump or extend his arms and body. The diameter of the cylinder shall not extend beyond the hand arms on the front, the arms bent at the elbow, the buttocks on the back, and the legs on the sides. These dimensions may vary according to the height and size of the player. D, the hands and arms may be raised or extended to the front no further than the feet and knees when the arms are bent at the elbow. E, from such position, the defender may rise or jump vertically and occupy the space within his vertical plane. F, the hands and arms of the defender may be raised within his vertical plane while the defender is on the playing court or in the air. G, the defender shall not be penalized for leaving the playing court vertically or having his hands and arms extended within the vertical plane. H, the offensive player, whether on the playing court or airborne, shall not clear out or cause contact that is not incidental. I, the defender may not belly up or use the lower part of the body or arms to cause contact outside his vertical plane or inside the opponent's vertical plane. J, the player with the ball shall be given no more protection or consideration than the defender in judging of which if either player has violated the principle of verticality. K, the offensive player must be allowed enough space to make a normal basketball move or play. The defense may not invade the vertical space of the offense and make illegal contact with the offensive player is attempting a normal basketball play. A normal basketball play in this context includes shooting, passing, dribbling, or pivoting.
The principles of guarding. Article 1. Guarding is the act of legally placing the body in the path of an offensive opponent. The guarding position shall be initially established and then maintained inbounds on the playing court. Article 2. There is no minimum distance required between the guard and opponent. However, the maximum distance to be considered closely guarded is 6 feet. This distance shall be measured from the forward foot or feet of the defender to the forward foot or feet of the opponent. These distances shall apply only when a player in the front court is holding the ball. Article 3. Every player shall be entitled to a spot on the playing court, provided that such player gets there first without illegally contacting an opponent. Article 4. To establish an initial legal guarding position on the player with the ball, A. The guard shall have both feet touching the playing court. When the guard jumps into position initially, both feet must return to the playing court after the jump for the guard to establish a legal guarding position. B. The guard's torso shall face the opponent from any direction. C. No time and distance shall be required. D. When the opponent with the ball is airborne, the guard shall have established legal guarding position before the opponent left the playing court. Article 5. To establish legal guarding position on a player without the ball, A. Time and distance shall be required to establish an initial legal guarding position. B. The guard shall give the opponent enough time and distance to avoid contact. C. The distance given by the opponent of the player without the ball need not be more than 2 strides. And D. When the opponent is airborne, the guard shall have established legal guarding position before the opponent left the playing court. Article 6. To maintain a legal guarding position after the initial position has been established, the guard, A. is not required to continue having the torso face the opponent. B. Cannot have either foot out of bounds. C. May raise the hands or may jump within his own vertical plane. D. May shift to maintain guarding position in the path of the dribbler, provided that the guard does not charge into the dribbler or otherwise cause contact. E. May move laterally or obliquely to maintain position, provided such a move is not toward the opponent when contact occurs. F. Is not required to have the feet on the playing court when shifting in the path of the dribbler or when moving laterally or obliquely. And G. May turn or duck to absorb shock when contact by the dribbler is imminent. In such a case, the dribbler shall not be absolved from the responsibility of contact. Article 7. A secondary defender cannot establish initial legal guarding position in the restricted area for the purpose of drawing an offensive foul on a player who is in control of the ball, or who has released the ball for a pass or try for goal. When illegal contact occurs within the restricted area, such contact shall be called a blocking foul, unless the contact is flagrant. This restriction shall not prohibit a defender located within the restricted area from attempting to block a shot by 1. Establishing legal guarding position, 2. Jumping in the air while maintaining legal verticality position, and 3. Attempting to block the shot.
Alright guys, so this is the screening principle. Article 1. A legal screen is an action by any player, offensive or defensive, with or without the ball, which, without causing contact, delays or prevents an opponent from reaching a desired position. Article 2. In establishing and maintaining legal screen tactics, the screener shall A. Stay within his vertical plane with a stance in which the inside of the screener's feet is no wider than shoulder width apart. The screener shall not lean into the path of an opponent or extend his hips into the path, even though the feet are stationary. B. Not be required to face any particular direction at any time. C. Be in bounds. Article 3. A player shall not A. Cause contact by setting a screen outside the visual field of a stationary opponent that does not allow his opponent a normal step to move. B. Make contact with the opponent when setting a screen within the visual field of the opponent. C. Take a position so close to a moving opponent that this opponent cannot avoid contact by stopping or changing direction. Article 4. No player, while moving, shall set a screen that causes contact and delays an opponent from reaching a desired position. Article 5. When opponents are moving in exactly the same path and direction, one behind the other, and the screener slows down or stops and contact results, the trailing player shall be responsible for contact. Article 6. No player shall use arms, hands, hips, or shoulders to force through a screen to hold or push the screener. When this type of contact occurs and the screener has also violated a screening rule, a double foul may be assessed. Article 7. Screeners shall not line up next to each other within 6 feet of a boundary line and parallel to it so that contact occurs. A. Screeners shall be permitted to line up parallel to a boundary line and next to each other without locking arms or grasping each other, provided that the screen is set at least 6 feet from the boundary line.
Post play, Rule 14-3-1 or Appendix 3, Section 3. Some guidelines to officials in making correct, consistent calls and low post play. A. Observe the entire play, especially when responsible for off-ball coverage. B. Anticipate the play, but not the call when post players are in fronting situations. C. A defensive player pushing a leg or knee into the rear of the offensive player shall be a personal foul on the defender. D. An offensive player dislodging a defensive player from established position by pushing or backing in shall be a personal foul on the offensive player. E. A player using the swim stroke arm movement to lower the arm of an opponent shall be charged with a personal foul. F. Post players using hands, forearms, or elbows to prevent an opponent from maintaining a legal position shall be charged with a personal foul. G. A defensive post player may use a forearm on the back of an offensive post player who does not have the ball as long as equal pressure is being applied and there is no dislodging by either player. When the offensive player gains possession of the ball, the defensive post player must remove hands and forearms from the offensive player or a personal foul shall be charged. H. An offensive post player is permitted to post up with his arms bent at the elbow when attempting to free himself to receive a pass. An offensive player may not use a straight arm to ward off a defender.
Rebound. Rule 4, Section 30. Article 1. A rebound occurs when a player secures control of the ball after a try for goal. In a rebounding situation, there is no player or team control. Article 2. To establish or maintain legal rebounding position, a player shall not displace, charge, or push an opponent, extend either or both shoulders, hips, or knees, or extend either or both arms or elbows fully or partially in a position other than vertical, so that the freedom of movement of an opponent is hindered when contact with any of these body parts occurs. C. Bend his body in an abnormal position to hold or displace an opponent. D. Violate the principle of verticality. Article 3. Every player shall be entitled to a spot on the playing court, provided that such player gets there first without illegally contacting an opponent. Exception, Rule 4-17.7, restricted area.